Today I'm going to show you my competition stage makeup tips. Makeup tips. The reason that I wanted to make this tutorial is I want girls to feel confident on stage in their entire look. I've had so many girls come to me and say, oh, I had this really bad experience with a makeup artist, or I don't know how to do it myself and I was stressed, or they do their makeup themselves and their feedback from the judges is to improve. And first of all, I'm not a professional makeup artist. I am a professional artist, and I have 15 years of experience with pageants, calendars, photo shoots, bodybuilding competitions, so I think I've learned quite a bit. But I've also spent a lot of time taking makeup lessons from professional makeup artists, and then also watching a lot of tutorials myself. It was just really hard for me to find everything that I wanted to know in one tutorial, so I'm mixing and matching all of those things. Things like cut creases and shades of foundation that match your tan. Things like that. So what I'm going to do for this video is exactly what I did for the Chicago Pro. I'll try to attach some links so that you guys can see how this looks on stage. The colors are the same, the products are the same. I am going to do one later on. I'll do one half of my face that is as requested. I had a girl, she said, can you provide some makeup products that are drugstore products? So yes, if there's a substitute that I've used, I will definitely include those, because let's face it, this shit is expensive and we don't have a lot of money to be spending on makeup because we are athletes. But some of the things are worth the splurge, and I think that they're kind of necessary. So that particularly is going to be the eye makeup, and I guess I'll talk about like what in the foundation you need to look for. But there's so many products that you could use. You might also need to alter some of the shades because of your skin tone, your hair color, your suit color. This is not my figure suit, but it's a similar color feeling. So this is a lot of purples and turquoise, but based on my suits I might change some of the colors a little bit, but the processes and the techniques are the same. So I hope that you love this, and I hope that this helps you. Please bear with me because this is my very first tutorial. This section is going to be your beginning steps to your entire makeup look, which actually starts the night before. So when you get your competition tan from the company, make sure that you ask them to do at least one coat on your face. Even if they do 2 or 3 coats on your body, just one on your face is great, unless you have super sensitive skin. If you know that's going to irritate your skin or break out, skip it. But if not, go ahead and have them do one. We want your makeup to look from top to bottom like it blends really well. And it's not always an issue of finding the right color as far as depth goes for your foundation. The tan has a specific hue to it. It's extremely dark. If you've never gotten it before, it's completely unnatural. It's really hard to match these colors. And so having that one coat underneath will help even that tone out some. My skin tends to pull more reds and oranges. Some people's pull more gold, more brown, and sometimes even green. So it's a very subtle thing, but these things will make your look really polished if you can get that to blend evenly. So you're going to ask for one coat, you're going to let it develop overnight, and then in the morning, very carefully with a mild soap and water, wash your face. Just make sure you don't get the runnies down your arms and mess up your arm tan. If you don't trust yourself, like me, you can just get a makeup wipe and you can just wipe your your tan off in the morning before you put your makeup on. If you do that, I suggest just going right along the jawline here, and you're going to leave your neck the normal tan color. It's okay if there's a little streak because we are going to blend that in quite a bit. So just make sure that you get the tan off, especially like in the corners of your eyes, around the mouth, definitely, and the hairline. If you have light hair like me, all that. So that's what you're going to do in the morning. I always wake up with really red itchy eyes in the morning when I stay in a hotel, so I always start with eye drops. This also helps me later on when I'm putting my eye makeup on. It doesn't seem as irritated. So just take your eye drops, put them in, and if you have any excess, try to like pat it around the skin and let it sink in, because it'll kind of help reduce redness around in the skin area also. You'll want, if you're 30 like me, you're going to want an eye cream. So this is Origin's ginseng, and it has a little bit of caffeine in it, and so if you have puffy eyes, that's great because we do not want anything that's going to cause shadows on that stage. So just put some sort of an eye cream. In a desperate measure, I've actually gone to the hotel vending machine and grabbed some ice cubes, and I'll spend a couple minutes just like circulating that ice cube around my eye area and anywhere else that's puffy just to decrease that. Or you can take a metal spoon with you and keep it in the refrigerator overnight, and that'll just give you something cool to sort of help with that puffiness or swelling. So that's what you can do in a pinch. Then you're going to put some sort of basic moisturizer on your face. The two things you want to avoid are oil, so you want an oil-free moisturizer, and definitely avoid SPF. That will give a weird white cast under your makeup, which we don't want. So make sure it's something you've used before, oil-free, SPF-free. I don't even know how to say this. This French. It's Corrective. I don't know how to say this. This is just a sample. I usually use one with SPF, so I just grabbed this. But it's pretty alright. It's pretty lightweight. Sounds fancy. Then you're going to, if you're going to wear any kind of a lip color, I highly suggest exfoliating your lips first. This is just an e.l.f. sugar scrub for your lips. It looks like lipstick. Smells good. Just put it on like tiny little circles, and then I'll let it sit for a few minutes so that it has some time to let that sugar do its job. Then you're going to wipe that off with either a makeup wipe or just warm water. So those are your starting things. The most important thing of this entire video that you're going to need is a fucking tiara, because it's your show day and you're a queen and you're going to wear it and you're going to own that shit. So you're going to put your tiara on, just in case you don't have any diamonds laying around and this is only your second best choice. Something that makes you feel pretty, but also keeps your hair out of the way. Especially if you have light hair like me, you're gonna need that back. You'll see why in a minute. This is my black swan tiara that I made for a rave last year, which I might do a video on how to make that too. But my rhinestones are from my suit, so we are on the same page with that. So make sure you've got some. If you don't have a tiara, I'm sorry. That's sad. Go get you a headband or just hair clips or something just to pull it back. The next thing that you're going to need getting into these products is a primer. I'm going to go through several primers that I've used, and I actually like to mix them. Could just be a marketing thing, that's fine, but I like to mix my primers. So this is a Smashbox Photo Finish, and this is your MAC Prep and Prime. First of all, if you're going to put anything on your fingers, wash your damn hands and get that nasty off, because I use my fingers a lot, so I don't have to use brushes as much, but we don't want any skin problems later. So I just take a little bit, just a tad of each, maybe like a pea-sized amount, mix them together, and then I go all over my face skin, especially in the creases, because I've got some creases right here. And if you have any dry spots, definitely spend some time there. And I'll work this all around my jawline and down my neck. So it's gonna go over that tan just a little bit, and I only go to right where my double chin would be if I hadn't prepped so long. So right, maybe like an inch under your chin, not all the way down your neck. So that's your face primer. If you don't want to splurge on those fancy ones, this Wet n Wild Photo Focus works, and I've used a lot of these e.l.f. primers based on my skin. This is a tone adjusting primer because I have some redness. My problems are redness, acne, some dryness, some wrinkles. So you can mix your primers to fit your needs in that area. So you might look for something that has like a salicylic acid in it if you're prone to breakouts, if you have a lot of redness, a colored primer, or if you have super dry skin, they have something more hydrating. But that's what you will want as far as your face primer. I highly recommend an under eye primer that has a little bit more hydration. This is Smashbox under eye primer. So you're going to put that shit all up in there lightly with a little pat, just a little pat all around your eyes. And the corners. Make sure you get the corners. And then that wasn't as necessary as this. This, I think, is very important. This is Smashbox Shadow Primer, because it's a long ass day and you want your makeup to look on point the whole day. So this eyeshadow primer is just going to go on the lids all the way up to the eyebrow bone, and even like kind of the outer corners and the inner corners. So that, I feel like, just kind of keeps your makeup in place for the rest of the day. And I treat this like a first step. This is a lash primer, and I only do it first because I know I'll forget to do it later, but it does help with, I feel like, the mascara, like the thickening for the lashes when you put those on later. So I'll just go ahead and put this on. This is also Wet n Wild Photo Focus. I know e.l.f. makes one. You could probably pay 20 bucks for one fancy if you want to. I don't feel like doing that. So those are the main primers. I highly recommend putting on a white eyeshadow base, or at least a light colored something. It doesn't matter if it's matte or pearly because we're going to go over it with makeup anyway, but something that's lighter color, like a light pink or a beige. I go ahead and treat this as a first step, just because, again, I'll forget it later. So you're just going to put that right on your lid and up to your brow bone. So it's okay if it doesn't fit perfectly, but we want to make sure it mostly sits on the lid itself. It won't hurt anything if it blends other areas. And I try not to smear it in. I just pat so that it stays pretty opaque. If you don't have that, something like this Maybelline Master Prime, it's like a lighter peachy color, that will do too. Anything less than that, I don't feel like it makes the color pop as much. So those are the first things that you're going to do. I'd say that's category 1 of getting your face ready. Next step is going to be your corrective concealers. We'll save the other concealers for later, so don't put them away, of course. I'm also going to use highlighters here, some cream-based ones. So the reason I do that is because I feel like the shadows that are cast from stage, anything that's going to reflect outward always helps. So this is a Benefit. I don't know what it's called because the name rubbed off, but there's tiny light bulbs on it, so I'm sure it's like light something. I like it because it's got this teeny little, now this is the travel size, I don't know if it's the case for the big one. It's just got like a little tip. So I'm just going to put that like right in the corners of my eyes, down the, what's it called, a tear trough? I don't know, there's a name for it. The little crease right in here. And then even some right under my brow bone. That's what I use that for. You don't need a fancy one. This Maybelline illuminating highlighter stick in medium will do just fine. The only thing is it's got like a little bit of a fatter tip on it, which is good for this area, but I'm not going to do that yet. You could put this on a brush and apply it that way, that's fine too. Don't use anything with glitter in it, please. Just shimmer, a very fine shimmer, and again, only in those places that need it here. So then the next thing, this is kind of a in-between product. It's got a little bit of a highlighter, a little bit of a shimmer, but it's also a yellow-based concealer. It's e.l.f. I feel like it's a knockoff of MAC brightening stick, whatever that is. This is for medium tones. So this has more of a brush, and it's a little bit, it's a weird consistency. So I'm actually going to make these little triangles like this. Fill that shit in right there. Here's Pickles snooping around my makeup. And then I'm going to take like a flat concealer brush. I'm just going to pat that in there. So because I want more coverage, I don't like to smear or rub. I actually want it to sit a little bit thicker. So I'm just going to pat, but do get all the way up to the rim of the eyelid. Pickles, what are you doing? Okay, so just try not to like rub it too much out of that triangular shape. This is a color correcting concealer palette. I still don't know how to say this brand. NYX, I don't know, whatever. This palette's nice. It's the light palette. I would probably go with a medium if I was going to buy this again. But really all we're going to use is this peachy orange shade here, which kind of throws me a little bit because it's, you would think like, oh, yellow. We've always been taught to use yellows because these purple circles. But I think there's some blue hue in there that this counteracts. So all you're going to do with the orange or peachy concealer is you're just going to put that on the spots that have a blue hue to them. So if you've got real dark circles, go all the way under that. I only notice it like sort of on the insides. So don't do this all the way out or under, because we're going to use a different kind of a concealer for that later. So I use that orange shade for dark circle correction. Now, this is just a Wet n Wild palette. You could get fancier if you want to, but I think e.l.f. makes one. You could pay a lot of dollars for it, but I'm not going to do that, especially since it goes under your makeup. So this is so baffling to me. So here's our yellow, here's our white. Never really use that color. Never really use purple. But this green, that's going to counteract all of your red spots. So I have a really fine-tipped concealer brush for this. This is perfect for breakout stuff, but just if I have redness around the eye, I can kind of go right under the rim. I don't see as much today, but I am going to go over most of my spots right here, and it's going to look real weird for a minute. I've got a whole patch right here. Thanks puberty. Yeah, just anything that stands out to you that looks like a redness issue, you're just going to dab that specifically on that spot. So we don't want big patches of this stuff. Like I've got some like red around my nose right here. I don't like that. I'll go a little right under here. I will go pat around the edges just to kind of blend that out some. But for the most part, it's staying right where I put it. So just make sure you don't smear it all over the place. But this is going to look really strange until you put your foundation over it. So it's okay if you just have little weird patches of color on your face. I'm going to leave it right there. So you can go with something cheap. Just remember, greens are to correct red, and then oranges are to correct blue. I have never used purple in my life, but I guess if you have some yellow tint to your skin that you don't prefer, purple would counteract that. Just remember your color wheel. Lesson in art. So that's it for the main concealers for now. So we're going to go to the next section. I feel like this is the part that everybody really cares about, which are the eyes. But first, we're going to do our eyebrows. Just to remind you, we have only put some corrective concealer on our face, not foundation first. That really messed with me because I've always been the person that puts the entire face on first and then do my eyes, and it took me a while to get comfortable doing my eyes first and then my foundation. But it makes sense. So we're going to do our eyebrows first because I feel like that actually affects how you do your eye makeup. First of all, no two persons' eyebrows are naturally perfectly the same. What my friend told me, she said they're sisters, not twins. So mine are, this is my favorite one. I have my eyebrows microbladed, so that kind of helped, I think. But even before, I would just use like an eye stencil if you need it, or eyebrow stencil, I'm sorry. These pins actually help a lot. This is Wet n Wild again. But what I like about it is the tip, if you can see, it's more of a lined tip than just a point tip. So that sort of helps me draw the lines in a little bit more straight. I know people like to use the really fancy Anastasia, however you say it, I don't know. That's cool. All you need is something waterproof or something that's going to last for a while. But I actually just use this to shape what I'm going to fill in. So you could if you want to. I can't find it in my brushes. You can get like a little spoolie. If you got some out of control eyebrows, you just want to make sure they're groomed first. Give them a little brush. Tweeze them. Have them shaped. If you can't do it yourself, or you're afraid you're going to rip half your eyebrow off with your waxing, go to a professional and have it done. It matters. I just lift a little bit here, and then I'm going to take this tip and I do the underside first, and I just go in a straight line from like the base to the high arch, and then I kind of angle downwards, so I do curve that. I don't like the look of just straight out pointed. And this is, again, for my eyebrows. if your eyebrows naturally do point, follow that. Follow what's natural, but that makes you feel like it's your eyebrow. I've had some people that make my brow like real heavy and sort of flat, and I don't feel like it looks like me at all. I don't even know where they got that idea. So I'm just going to follow what my brows are already doing. I'm just going to highlight that. So try not to do something that you've never done before on your face. So I did the bottom curve. The top, I like to keep the exact same amount of distance. Then at the top I'll give like a little bit more point and sort of round downward and taper. If that gets too pointy, that's fine. I'll either just kind of blend it, or I'll go back over that with concealer in a second. So we've outlined, and you want your brow to end, see if I can do this, where your nostril is to the outer corner of your eye. That's how far you want it to extend. So if you have any blank spots, like we're going right here, if you have any blank spots, fill that down. Then I'm going to use like hair-like brush strokes just to fill in. As for stage, I do go with a heavier look. So I'm going to definitely give this some more attention out here. Even to the inner third, I would say, of my brow. Then I'm going to start to space that out some, just because I don't want that really heavy look all over. So my heaviness or my darkness of my brow is going to follow about the outer third, and then the middle third, but that inner third I'm kind of going to leave a little bit more sparse. So I do it with a pencil, whatever. Use your choice of brow pencil, but I do feel like that's necessary because you can fill in with whatever you want to. I like to outline my brows so I can see them. See, this one's a little bit shorter on me, so I have to extend out a little bit more on one side. And I'm going to fill all that in. Missed a spot. Okay. I think that's enough. So you can go 1 to 2 shades darker than your normal day-to-day look. Because my roots are a little bit darker, I'm going, what is this? Crap. Ash brown. Ash brown for my blonde hair. The blondes and the ambers to me are a little bit too light. Anything that gets into the brown, in an emergency, I've used like a brown eyeliner, and it worked, but it was a little heavy for me. So ash brown is a good, ash brown or taupe colored. The fill-in that I'm going to use is actually e.l.f. Again, it has a gel on one side and a powder on the other. This is the medium palette. I have the light palette. It doesn't work as well for my stage look, and I'm just going to use my own angled brush because I've lost the tiny little brush that comes with it. I don't use the gel, I just use the powder, and again I'm going to go heavy on the outer third. So I'm just going to kind of pat that within the shape that we made with your brow, and I stick to the under side more so than the top side, and then I sort of just fill in and brush this upward, and I stop about 1/4 of an inch from the inner corner of my brow, just because I don't want that super heavy look. If you like that, go all the way in. You better be really good at making your shapes match though, and I'm not. So we're going to do the same underside, brush up. These don't have to be perfect because we are going to bring back some concealer later. I'm going to go ahead and talk about this because it's in the category of brows, but I might not set this till later. I'll go ahead and do it. This is a brow setting gel. This one's tinted. Clear is just fine. I like the tint because I feel like with my blonde hairs that it can use a little bit more depth to my brow. This is MAC, but you can get a drugstore one, that's fine. The main thing I like this for is it just keeps my brows set in place. So I go along, I drag the hairs down with it in the shape that I want. I do tiny upward strokes on the inner ones, but then I go back along with the direction that we created. If you got a little too heavy, let me just do it for you. If you get a little bit too heavy here in the inner part and you don't like that, like you just overdid it, make it angry brows, make me mad. Okay, so this spoolie, if you just brush it upward here, that'll sort of spread that out some. Or if you got too heavy here, you can always take your spoolie brush and sort of lighten that heaviness of your brow first. But after that, you leave your brows alone because we are done with those. But now that we have them, I'm going to show you the best trick in the universe. And someone else taught this to me, and they used athletic tape, and it was useful. But this just kind of made more sense to me. I was having trouble with the athletic tape, and this didn't hurt as much to take off. So you're going to take a Band-Aid and you're going to cut that in half, and then you are going to take this piece off, of course. You're going to take this Band-Aid, this is my favorite trick, you're going to take it from the bottom lash line and you're going to line the edge up to your brow. So there are no excuses about why you shouldn't have a perfect cat eye here. So going right to the edge of the brow, taped under. I think Nelly does this with his Band-Aid. You know, Nelly the rapper. Pretty sure we have the same look and life experiences. So we're gonna do. God, this is so hard for me on this side. I don't know why. There. Okay. So extend it all the way out. Why this helps me so much is I actually have really asymmetrical eyes and eyebrows and face. I got dropped on my head on a curb once, and so it's kind of affected how this brow and eye act. I can open this side a lot more, but even genetically, I feel like I've got one small eye, so when I smile, this one squints a lot, like it pushes up, and this eye's just doesn't open as well. I don't think that the head injury helped, but I think it would do that anyway. I have sort of a hooded lid here. Maybe a little bit on this side, but I've definitely noticed it on this side. So I have to open this eye up more on my face. You might not have that issue. If you're blessed with symmetrical eyes, lucky you, not me. So if you have asymmetrical eyes, take some time and study in the mirror and learn your own face. Because that will affect how polished your makeup looks. It doesn't have to be perfectly matched, but it will make it look pretty close. So having these Band-Aids on actually helps me draw my lines a lot more evenly, and it makes the cleanup so much easier. Plus I try to get this under here, so if I have any fallout, it just helps reduce that. So now that you look like a badass with your tiara and Band-Aids on your face, we're gonna get started on eyes. So I'm using this Morphe palette. It's the God, I can't get that open. It's like the purple and pink, orangey, bronzy family. Some browns, which is what I wanted. I am wearing this purple suit for this video because my figure suit is getting cleaned right now. My figure suit is very deep purple with blues. This is like a, I don't know, lavender with like teals in it. So it's the same color family that I would wear, that I have been wearing on stage. If this video goes well and I get a good response, I might do different eye looks for different suits just based on my opinion. But I like the purples and pinks for really any color. I have blue eyes, blonde hair, so you can use this. You don't have to use this exact color palette. You can play with the colors. The steps are the same. And what I'm going to do is sort of a cut crease smoky look. So the very first thing that I want to point out, based off of what I said, my eyes being uneven, is if you're going to do a cut crease, you have to make sure that crease comes high enough. And so I have actually a tiny lip brush, but if you have something that's more of a liner brush, like this guy, that will do too, possibly better. But I like this because it's still a little bit soft. So I'm actually going to take, not black, but the next darkest color that I can find. So on this palette, it's this plum, pretty dark plum palette. So these are blacks if it's hard to see, plum, browns, and since I'm sticking with purples, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take where my eye crease is, and I'm going to go about a millimeter or two above that, and I'm just going to draw, I'm going to trace my own eyelid shape, but I'm going to come up just a little bit higher. And if it's not perfect, that's okay, because we are going to fix it. And I would just bring this into right below the inner corner of your brow, but do go all the way out. So we got this really awesome 70s look going on with this. This just kind of helps you know where you're going with this. It's just sort of mapping out where you're going to put these colors. So this is my hooded eye. if that's what that is. So I'm actually going to go just a hair higher than this one to give the illusion that it's open. So again, just tracing to the inner corner of the eye, staying about 1 millimeter above your natural crease if you have my eyelid problem, all the way out to our Band-Aid, our trusty Band-Aid. You should sponsor me, Band-Aid. So I've used that. I'm actually going to go over this with it's a slightly lighter color. This is MAC Plush Pro Longwear. I just feel like it's just a little bit more subtle, so I'm kind of going to make little stripes. So I've started with our darkest color. Right at the edge of that, I'm going to place the second lightest color, which I'm sure it looks about the same on camera. But I feel like this set of stripes help transition the color so it's a lot easier to blend. So we've got our darkest, second darkest. Now I'm going to go for like a plum purple, because I like to work those plums and pinks together. Let's use, okay, I was trying to wait to hold this because I'm so excited about it. I want it to be a surprise. But this Huda Beauty, whatever. This Gemstones, I can't find the name of it. Hold on, I'll find it. Okay, I might just post it once I figure it out, because this print is so small. Do I need glasses? Whatever. It's this one with some pinks. There's like a green and a blue and some oranges in there. I will find the name of this and post it also. So you can see this color is actually the exact color of my figure suit. So I'm going to take this, and it's kind of a medium purple compared to the dark one, and then the lightest shade we're going to use. And again, I'm going to go right at the edge. It's got some shimmer to it, but a little, you can already see a little bit more color. I'm going to go right along the edge of that crease line that we already made. So you can already see where there's not a lot of distance between this brow and lid and this one, and that's okay because we're going to fix it. So just keep working your way up some medium colors. So now I'm going for like a medium purple here. So I would say about 1/4 of an inch. Let me situate. About 1/4 of an inch I'm filling with just a dark and medium purple, and we are going to blend that shit. That should be the lesson of the day. Blend as much as you can. So I'm leaving that little lip brush. Now I'm going to go for some more light tones, especially under my brow. I used to stay away from shimmers, but for stage I feel like it works. So I don't know that I do this on a daily basis. On this Morphe palette, I'm going to grab like a pinkish, this pearly pinkish peach color. I feel like it transitions well between the purples and the pinks. I'm going to just apply that right, again, making these little tiny stripes right at the edge of that previous color. And then I'm going to go back in this Huda. And I'm going to take, I like this. No, I like this. I'm going to go with this little lavender color. And I'm just going to pop this kind of at the top. I don't know why. I don't like a lot of color on my brow, which looks ridiculous now. Oops, this one. Got 2 different eye shades going on. The very top color that I use is going to be a super bright pink, like this light Pepto-Bismol pink. And I'm going to just line basically the underside of my brow with that. It's got a little bit of a gold to it, which is nice. So this is already weird for me because I always felt like the color needs to go here. But we're filling this color and now our lids are pretty blank. But that's where the magic happens. I've found, I've had to test my boundaries on this because I forget that the things that make things pop the most is contrast. So if you want your lighter colors to stand out, you have to go darker. I always felt like if I went too dark it looked really smudgy, and it's about to, but you'll see. I'm taking a really fluffy eyeshadow blender brush, and I'm going to try to stay above this crease. So I don't want to bring this crease down anymore. I just want to blend this out. So still try to keep this going in an upward outward movement. So I'll start at the inner crease and then just with like real small circles or even like kind of a windshield wiper movement, I'll blend this as much as possible. If you blend that line a little bit, that's okay. But again, just remember that's our mapping. So right now, we are blending this shit all up in there. See, I'm getting a little bit into the inner corners. So, that's what we're gonna do there. This next part, if you've never done this before, is about to blow your mind. I'm gonna close this for a second. So, you'll want, if you don't have that white primer, where'd it go? If you still have this white primer, that might be better. I prefer to use a concealer. I just feel like it kind of works with all the colors a little bit better because I'm going to go from a kind of an ombre like pink to purple. So I like this. This is MAC Pro Longwear. You ain't got to get fancy. Just get something light, like even this guy, remember this? So you could even use like a shade like this. You do want it pretty light. The liquid for this works best. I don't feel like the creams work as well. So let me find my brush. Let me blow your mind right now. So you're gonna take just a little, half a pea. Oh, that's hard. A half a pea, just a dot. And you're not gonna come all the way down to the lash line, but about middle of the lid to start. And you're going to just make little dots. I go to the edge of my my waterline, whatever that is. You already see where this is getting messy. Yeah, so you're just gonna pop that in. Not way down to the lash line, because what happens is the concealer gets down into the lashes and then your lashes touch the dark color. So we have these dots here. A little bit more on this eye. So to get your cut crease pretty even and to fit your eye shape, you have these liquid dots of concealer and you're gonna tilt your head down like I'm looking at the camera. You might even like drop your chin down and then just look up as much as possible. You want your lid to touch at your brow bone. That is what you want. And we're gonna kind of connect these dots. So this, you can already see, I hope, this has already come up higher than where I had that line, but that's what's gonna open up that eye. And so, especially on my, a little more concealer here, especially on my asymmetrical eyes. So if you need a little bit more, just remember the middle of the lid is best because we are going to fill all that in. You can look up, whatever, look up at the sky. So now that we have these dots, you're gonna take, you can use your concealer brush or you can use more of a liner brush. You're just gonna connect these dots to make a, oh, this is hard to talk and keep my eyes closed at the same time. You're gonna connect all these and just try your best. Hold on, I'm not good at this. Alright, try to follow that line and try to make it seamless from the band-aid, our friend the band-aid, all the way in. And then you can start to bring it down to the upper lash line. What's good about this is it gives it a really opaque base. Oh man, I just messed that up. Alright, so I'm actually going to extend down past the inner corner. So it's kind of more of like an almond shape. I'm going to do the same for this side. This one's a lot harder for me for whatever reason. So I'm just going to start in the middle because that's where I can obviously see the contrasted difference. So you're just going to kind of sweep that out to the side, but try to extend it all the way to the band-aid, and then you can kind of go back and forth. Just windshield wiper that in. Ah! Gosh, it's so hard. Alright. And then we're going to extend that down to the lash line. And blend all the way out. Blend all the way out. Alright, so once you feel like you've gotten, I probably spend a good 5 minutes on just this eyelid. Once you feel like you've gotten evenness, or at least close to it, because again, it doesn't have to be perfect, you'll have where you blended, you'll have your dark line where you blended upward, so that part's pretty much done. But we have this blank canvas now on our lids, so I'm hoping you guys can see. Can you see me? Once you feel like you have that even, you are going to get a translucent setting powder. This is just MAC Prep and Prime. Again, you can use drugstore, that's fine. And you're just going to take like a fluffy brush. I'm just using the end of this guy. And all you're going to do is pat just on the concealer so that it doesn't crease, which is odd because we're doing a cut crease. But we want to keep your pre-cut crease under control. Alright, so that was probably the most stressful part. And we're done with that. So now, goodness, everything else that we do here is going to be what I would consider your normal eyeshadow. I'm going to come back to, I'm going to stick with this. This was so handy. I had to travel for my last show and I didn't want to bring all of my makeup. This sort of had all the colors that I needed in one palette, and they have like 4 palettes. So I'm sure you can find something that has pretty much all the colors you need. I always start with the inner corner being the lightest and then move to the darker color for the outer side. So I'm going to go for this kind of pearly, opal, pinky lavender color. And I'm going to go right on the inner corner. And I'm kind of going to do my eyelid like in fourths. Like fourth this color, about halfway through. And then I'll kind of divide the outer half into some more different medium tones and then dark tones. So always, if you have eyes like me, go for that lightest color on the inner part. The next half is going to be this sort of pink, I guess it's like a pink lavender. It still has an opal finish to it. I love this rosy gold color down here, and I'm all about some pinks. So I'm actually blending these two, and I'm just going to go for that fourth. So it's still the inner half and still the lighter color. I did not combine. So make sure that you're carrying your color all the way up to the line of the cut crease, all the way down to your lash line. So don't forget that you made this cut crease up here, and we've got to fill that in with color now. So that's the inner half. You got your lightest, mid-lightest. Now I'm going to go for something that go like that, like a purple that kind of matches my suit. I guess it still matches the suit I'm on. So this color right here is actually a perfect transition between these two pinks. I would consider this your medium dark color, not quite as light. And now I'm going to fill in, I'm going to do it like a curve, sort of like a C shape. So it's that fourth, but I'm making like a very subtle curve to it, kind of like a moon shape. Yeah, moons are good. And that, I don't know why I do that. Actually, now I'm thinking about it. I feel like it just shapes my eyes a little bit better. Alright, so we've got our light, mid, medium dark. Now I'm going to go for this really bold purple. And I'm going to pop that right on the furthest part out, closest to the band-aid. I'm actually taking this brush and I'm kind of doing streaks just to help blend that color. I go all the way up to the cut crease that we made that dark color, and then I bring it down about the outer fourth of my lash line, whatever. So we're going to do the same here. So you're basically just creating a map and then filling in these little sections. I'll see if I can't create some sort of a visual template for you guys. Alright, so now we've got some color. So I'm going to take a second right here. I'm going to practice what I preach, and I'm going to blend this out. So now if it starts to get into that line with the contrast difference, that's okay, because this color is already so opaque. Just don't try to blend it together, but see if you can't stick to just the lid. So start with the inner corner, and you're going to blend outward. So just circular. Circular is good. You don't have to overblend it. I mean, if it looks pretty blended to you, don't mess with it. Don't overdo it. Just make sure it is blended. No stripes. So that is the base of our, where's my brush? Our lid color. I'm going to use, these are both e.l.f. brushes. I have no idea, what does this even say? Shadow brush. Smudge brush. So one has a sort of curved, all the way curved. One is at an angle. I like both, but I like that it's flat and it sort of helps me control this smoky eye bit. So I'm going to go back to the darkest plum that I have that's not black. And I'm just going to pick up some color here, and I'm going to just go across this band-aid. That's what it's for. It's the same as when you're bowling and you need the guards up. It is right there to keep you in line. So again, I'm taking this and sort of whiskering it away from the band-aid just a little bit. And I'm still going to follow my upper lash line with that. At this point, I start to kind of transition into that original cut crease that we made earlier so that it blends well. Okay, so now we have most of our purples in there. At this point, I'm going to start with a black. This Morphe palette, it kind of has this black glitter color. I wish I knew which one this was, sorry. So there's like a glittery black and then like a really matte black, but for this I'm just going to stick with the glittery black. And I'm going to go ahead and just do sort of follow a wing shape just on the outer edge, and I don't go all the way up to the cut crease. So I actually stop at probably my natural crease, so just like a hair down from that, and then follow the lash line again. So it's gonna get super serious with this blending. I'm gonna blend again. This time I'm gonna blend from outward to inward to kind of carry over some of that darker color, and just making little light circles. That's all you're doing, because this band-aid has got you. So that, believe it or not, that's all the shadow I'm going to use. I'm going to leave these out because we still have to do under later, but now gets into the tricky part. Okay, so now getting into the liners, we're going to start with just a waterproof mechanical liner. You can use kohl, that's fine. I feel like that crumbles and gets in my eye. So I'm not going to pull outward, but I am going to take my pinky and lift my lashes up toward my brow for this. So we're going to extend out, and then you're just going to take the edge and just line the waterline under your lashes, and then I even go for this inner corner here. I feel like for stage it's important to keep your liner pretty heavy. You don't have to do this. This is just something I've always done. Okay, so just make sure you go from the inner corner all the way to the outside, but again, you don't have to do that step at all, especially if touching your own eye freaks you out, because you will probably accidentally touch it. So that's where I start. The next thing, which is why these band-aids are so awesome, you're going to use a liquid liner or a gel, either one. Do I have a gel? You can use a gel pot. If you do so, something like this. And just a really small brush. A liner brush would be good. These pens are awesome. This is MAC. This is the Brush Black Brushstroke liner. But my lovely friend Sarah, she hooked me up with this Tarte Sex Kitten, and I think I like it more. They're both pretty fluid. I think I like the tip of this better. The tip is pretty pointy on this one. It's a little bit more more slender. This one though angles, I hope you can see that, it angles a little bit more, so I feel like from winging it, it's, I don't know, I think the quality is the same. I just feel like I like the design of the tip better of the Sex Kitten, so that's what I'm going to use. I have used this MAC one just fine though. So the first thing I'm going to do is trace my actual eye shape before I get into any winging. So I'm going to start at as close as I can get to my lash line, and very thinly just trace. Always go from the outer to the middle, this way and then I come back the other way. I don't know why I do that. So this, you can kind of just lay this pin along your lid. You don't have to hold it like way out like a point. You can kind of just angle it and slide it across. So I'm going to go for the inner, I almost just messed that up. The inner corner all the way out. Okay, so now that you've traced your entire shape of your lid, so I'm going to go outward to inward again on this side. Almost forgot that I have two eyes. Alright, so we've gotten that, and then I'm just going to drag as close to the lash line as possible. Alright, so now that you've traced just that shape, this is up to you. I don't love a huge wing. I don't want it to be distracting, but I do want to see it pretty apparent. So I'm going to use my eyebrow and then this cut crease sort of as measurement. That Band-Aid is there, which you don't have to worry about tracing that because you're going to use the edge of that. But as far as where it stops, try to close your eye as much as you can here. And then I'm going to trace this from, I guess it's my natural eye crease. So I like, it's about 1/4 of an inch. And just trace right along that Band-Aid. And you're just going to draw a line straight out from the very corner of your eye along that Band-Aid to your stopping point. Again, if you like a really strong wing look, you can go higher, which is fine. Is my pin running out? So the best thing to do for me, especially on this side, is just to make a dot. I'll just make a dot where I want it with this liner so I can see. And then that way, if I need to kind of take my time and stop, I have a destination of where I'm going here. So go from the outer corner of your eye to your dot. Stop there. So there's a couple of different ways to do this. You can actually, I'll use my easier eye for this. You can just trace the shape of the wing with the tip. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. I'm not as good. I have to keep this eye lifted or I start to get these weird little cuts in my line. So you're going to go from that outer dot. I go to the outside of my pupil, not my iris. I hope y'all know the difference, but just in case you don't. The iris is the color and the pupil is the dark, the black hole. So I go to the outside of my pupil. You can do that and then fill that in with your edge here. That's a thing. Or this side is so hard for me. I'm just going to take the edge and I'm going to lay it flat. I'm going to drag it inward. So if you need to make another little dot right above where the outside of your pupil is, you're just going to draw from your outer dot to the dot right at the outside of your pupil. And I'm going to drag it this way. So I'm going to lay this flat. I'm going to come along the edge of the Band-Aid. Okay, so that was pretty painless. If you feel like it needs evening out, that's where you might use that fine tip. But I try not to get too caught up in this because nobody's going to know anyway. You can maybe see on my eyes how uneven this looks already. So on my problem child eye, I have to go back and thicken this line a little bit. I will add just a little bit more thickness to this upper liquid liner here to sort of transition the line so that I do it in sections outward, inward, and then I sort of go back through. If I do it the other way, they never look even to me. So on this eye, I'm going to go from the inner pupil to the outer pupil. And I'm just going to do short sections, so take your time. Do not be rushed. So I'm just going to kind of take a 1/4 inch at a time to line this. And I know it seems like it's taking forever, but I feel like eyes are the most important. So do whatever you need to do, get them right. So we've lined with our liquid. I always like to, I don't know why I do this. I like to set things a lot. So I'm going to, oh no, I'm sorry. I was going to use my Morphe black palette, but this MAC Carbon to me is the darkest that I can get with this shadow. So I'm going to take my very small angled brush. I'm just going to pat there, and then I'm going to just lay this right on top of that, specifically the outer part. I'm going to pat it along the liner. I just feel like that helps it set a little bit better. But what else I like about it is it blends a lot easier, and it sort of softens that cat eye, so that way if you did fuck up, nobody has to know. There. Alright, so the last thing that you're going to do, one more time, is you're just going to blend this into the crease as much as possible, just to soften that, because here's where the magic happens. You're just going to take these right off, and look how perfect that is. You see that? Yeah, so I always save these because they can be used multiple times, and they're good if you messed up and you gotta go fix it later. At least you kind of have, you actually you can use your markings on the band-aid to kind of reset these. Ah, oh, feels so good to have those off. Okay, so now we're gonna get into the fun shit, the glitter. This is Makeup Forever. It's Starlit Liquid. This is a very, very shimmery pearl pink, and it looks like nail polish, so that kind of throws me off. So what I do with this very pale color is I'm going to dot a highlight, and then I'm going to fan this outward and up into that cut crease we made. So again, don't forget why that's there. You have to extend that color upward and outward. So we're kind of going up high with this. So again, I'm going to treat this in fourths. So this was our inner fourth. I guess I should say thirds because I'm going to do this differently. These Stila Magnificent Metals are the shit. They're worth the money to me. This is Enchantress. It's a pink, kind of peachy pink. And I feel like this specific color helps bring out that pink color that I like with my purples. So we're going to just go to the liner line and again up into that crease, cut crease. And I'm only going for the middle third here, all the way up. And again, if these aren't perfect, that's fine because we're going to blend them all in just a second. So this third color that I'm using, it's the Stila Magnificent Metals again. It's Gypsy. This is more of a kind of a hologram lavender pink peach color. I'm not going to go all the way into that smoke we did. I'm just going to go kind of, I'd say 3/4 of the way out. And just follow that cut crease line. If you go all the way out, that's okay. So to blend all of these, I'm just going to take my finger and I'm going to very carefully just dab outward. Because it's a cream, I don't feel like you need a brush, but you could use a brush if you needed to, but it doesn't have to be so perfect. This you can already see is pretty blingy, but I'm going to show you an alternative or an addition. So if spending money on eyeshadow is not your jam, I found these this little glitter set from NYX again, and it's got a peach, a kind of peachy pink, a purple, and then this kind of opal color, and it comes with glitter glue, I'm sorry. So that you will need a brush. So you're going to take your tube of glitter glue. I'm just using an unused shadow brush, and I'm going to dot midway through again. So you can use this on top of the Magnificent Metals or in place of. Either one will still be a really good look. Alright, so I only glued like this inner corner because really I only want like 3/4 of my lid to be glittered. Then I'm going to do the same transition. So again, your lightest color, that we're just going to pop, I'm using the other side of this glue brush, we're just going to pop on the inner third. And then conveniently these stack together, so I'm going to use the second lightest color. I guess it's kind of a medium. This looks more like a rose to me. So because it's a little bit darker, I'm actually going to pat it more to the outer third. So if you're not using the Magnificent Metals, I would say take this lighter color a little bit further out. So I kind of skipped that middle third. And then to finish off all of our glitter, I'm going for this really deep purple. Gosh, this is messy. And I'm just going to pat sort of where I stopped with that other Magnificent Metals, just to that gypsy color, the purple, just to give it a nice transition. I don't know that I would brush this out. I mean, you could, but I would let it set for a little bit, so let that glue dry quite a bit. The glue helps keep it in place. What's nice is we have not done our foundation yet, so any fallout that you get, we're going to cover that up here in a second. Once this all dries, you could go back through and sort of blend it with like a fluffy brush. I would just kind of pat. Just pat this way. I would not rub, because then a lot of your glitter is going to fall off. Right then, I'm going to stop you right there. Get a setting spray. And before you do anything else to your face, just at least spray and cover what you just did, so that, because we're pretty much done with eyes and we have lower lash line and then lashes to do, but this is your look, so we want to keep this in place as much as possible. We've already done your brows, we've done your eyelids, so everything else that we do is going to be your face, your overall face. Okay, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about lashes because everybody knows how to do their lashes, but I've already put mine on. What I did first was actually put my mascara on before my fake eyelashes. These are my favorite style of lashes. I'd say they're middle of the line. They're a little fancy. So these are the Ardell Double Up. I also like the Ardell, they're Faux Mink. The Faux Mink, it's 810. The Double Up, it's 207. To me, it's the same kind of look. One's just a little bit more dramatic. Get this open. So I am going to show you my little trick. So I've actually already trimmed these to the width of my eye. I have tiny eyes. These are for bigger eyeballs. So I never like to use lashes at the original length. So I've trimmed these, and what I do is I only go for the inner fourth outward. So I don't go all the way in. That really bothers my eyes, especially in like photo shoots. It just pokes the inside of my eye, and I hate it. So always trim your eyelashes to fit yours. If you need to cut these into sections and put them on, the sections on individually, that might help you feel more in control. But this is a trick I learned a long time ago. So you're going to actually press this. You're going to press these against maybe your ring finger or middle finger, and you're going to follow the curve. I feel like that helps. It's a great look for your fingers, whatever. That will help kind of curve the lash to fit the curve of your eyelid a little bit better, because it kind of warms the glue some, and I feel like it just gives it a better shape. So I actually do this while I do other things, and I usually do my lashes last, but because we are on eyes, I wanted to go ahead and finish that, at least the top lid off. So after you put your mascara on, you already have your lashes trimmed. After these have set for a little bit, like on your finger, and warmed up, you can also just take the edges and sort of work them quite a bit. So that's what I did to put these on. Now, that's really all I have to say about the lashes. Alright, so we finished our upper eye for this look. So now we're going to go into the foundation, which, if you are watching this and you forgot, we did not do foundation yet. Here's my cat again. He wants his makeup done. I'm not going to cut that out. Yeah, so we did our eyes first. We did corrective concealer. We have our primers on and everything. Now we're getting into the face. So everybody's going to have a different skin tone, of course. You may need different shades than me, but because the tan is so dark, I feel like these shades work pretty well. I'm going to list out different makeup that I have used and that I used for the most recent competitions. I've switched over to MAC Pro Longwear. I actually have a bunch of samples because I'm still trying to figure out what colors I want. But the reason I like the Pro Longwear is just because it's waterproof. And it's oil-free, and so and my skin is so sensitive, I try to go for things that definitely aren't going to break them out. So far this has done well. There are lots of different foundations, different brands, different shades that will work just as well. I even have a sample of the Dior Forever, so that's something new that I'm using. But I had a request to suggest drugstore makeup, because I'll be honest, I don't have a lot of money to spend on this beauty shit. I'm an athlete, man. I gotta get my protein in, my gym memberships. But I love makeup. It's really fun, but I could not spend money like this on makeup often. So I might make a list of things that I think are worth the splurge or that you can pinch pennies on. This, it's kind of a personal choice. I have used these e.l.f. foundations before, and the colors work just fine. I'm not positive that they compare well to the MAC Pro Longwear, and that's just because of the waterproof, I believe. So as long as you find something waterproof, oil-free, and that matches the hue. There is one more, well, I guess I didn't say one more, but one more thing to consider. That with foundations, a lot of tan companies they have produced a foundation that actually matches their tan. So I'm just going to show you this. This is Jantana, and that is as dark as the tan is, just about. You can definitely find shades that are this dark, that's fine, but I feel like this has kind of that weird reddish hue that the tan has. Jantana is an old school one, but Liquid Sunrays has theirs out too, so I would just look into the tan company that you're using, and if you use it consistently, it may be worth investing that just for your dark contours to blend into the tan. And I've also found these, what is this? This is Cover FX, gosh, they're darkening drops. So you can add those in. I just don't think that this is going to be dark enough, but it might be a good for a mixer. I mix all of my shades. I haven't found one that I just love yet. So what I'm going to do for this, I'm going to go, this half is fancy and this half is frugal on the foundation. The eyeshadow I would say get splurge, or just find something that's very glittery like that cheap NYX. So, I'm actually going to start with this as a Match Master, and somebody actually gave this to me, so that's why I use it, but I like it. This is 6. I would probably go with a 7 if I were going to purchase it. So we are going to go, just for the base, we're going to go, this is actually pretty close to my current color that I have on, all the way down the neck. If you have your tanner on, you're going to probably just save this area because we're going to blend a darker color into that. My tan is about a week old, so it's not up to date. With this medium e.l.f. palette, I'm going to be going with the second lightest shade for my base. Sometimes I mix them a little bit, like I said. It's pretty close. I can already tell a difference in the consistency of it, the coverage. But this is just our base. So you could also mix like a cheap base and then spend more money on a foundation that you feel like works for your highlight areas. I'll probably come back to that. But step 1, we are going to, I think, oh, my cat knocked my brush off. We're gonna blend circular motions. This is our fancy side. I use this round puffy brush for this, but this guy has come in very useful for, it's a little bit stiffer. So I actually just push this way back into my hairline, around my ears. I don't come through here just yet. But for the parts that need pretty stiff blending, I'll just go through like that. So, base. It really doesn't get much lighter than this. This is actually as light as I go. The concealer shade that I use is maybe only one or two shades lighter than this. So to put this in perspective, I'm going to do the dark colors first so that you can see the contrast, because as I add dark colors, this is going to start to look lighter. So for this, I'm going to put this the Tan Company foundation on. I'm probably going to use it on both sides just so you can see how dark it is. But to start on the fancy side, I'm going to take my samples of, this is NC50 and then NW45. I'm still trying to figure out which one works for me best, but I feel like the NC works best for my skin tone. You'll have to figure out which one works best for you. The NW is fine, it just seems a little grayish, whereas this seems a little more golden. So for my skin, these colors are pretty fit for that. I take take a little bit of each of these and I'm just mixing them on this little, this eyelash tray. Cause it's right there. So I've spent a lot of time on Pinterest finding out how to contour my own face, but there's a few things that you need to keep in mind. First of all, if you need to contour your own face, you can find your face shape, and then you can find plenty of tutorials and information on that. I'm not an expert, I only know my face, but definitely look into your face shape and find ways to bring out your features. We want to bring out your features, but then there's one thing to keep in mind that's really important. That light is very bright and it's coming from overhead, so I wish I had a flashlight to show you, but it's sort of your forehead and your brow bone and your nose are already going to be very highlighted because of the stage lighting. The shadows are already going to fall kind of where they would, but particularly that brow, which is why I like this cut crease, because I can put light there, reflective glitter. And then I do highlight my chin a little bit more. But when you dye it and your face gets very angular or hard, I mean, just part of that is fat loss tissue in your face. Or if you're aging like me, getting to 30, not 15 anymore. Those things you'll want to keep in mind when you're doing your face makeup too, because you really want to soften that look and you want to make your skin look youthful and just clear. You don't need it to be overly exaggerated. It's going to look that way in the mirror, but you just want to soften your face and add highlights to your features. But keep in mind, you're already getting a really strong highlight, which is why I don't go much lighter than this shade here. So taking our darkest shade for my face, my contour depth areas, I start at the temple here, and I actually add a little bit more right here because I feel like I need that balance, especially having lighter colored hair. I usually do like a swoop bang thing, which I'll do another hair thing later to kind of even that out. But I just do little hair-like strokes here. I have a crooked nose, I just discovered. I don't know how I got to be 30 before I realized my nose curves this way. So because I've discovered that, I just draw a straight line here. I don't spend a lot of time contouring my nose. I don't really care. Maybe a little bit here. Now for this is probably the most important part of your contour. I will bring this down, skip the temple a little bit, or the cheekbone, and then I'm starting to work in, and then I go right above this because I want it to blend pretty evenly. So right above your jawline, or my jawline, I guess. I'm running out of dark here. And then I hit right under my chin. This works well for my face shape. Whatever your face shape, one thing to keep in mind is that you can do the fish kiss face. If you're dieting, you've probably lost a lot of volume in your cheeks anyway, unless you have super strong cheekbones. If you have really strong cheekbones, excuse me, I wouldn't do this as much. You're already going to be pretty contoured. But if you still want to create like an angular shape, find that curve of your cheekbone, and you're going to go right under the cheekbone, at least to kind of where your eye corner starts. So I'm going under this, not on top, because we're going to leave that medium and then we're going to go over it with a highlight. So you can see I'm missing a spot. Boy, this looks awesome. So if you look at it, it's just that top kind of a bow here, and then sort of a 3 shape like this going on. You could also make a kind of a 3 or E, depending on whatever, to follow those lines, but especially the chin. Now, again, this is going to look a lot darker because I don't have the tan on, but you want to draw this down, and I don't go lower than my throat, my thyroid. I actually leave this all tan and I try to blend it in. I don't carry down further than that. I feel like at least if I stop here, that's where that crease is anyway, so if there is a difference in the tone, not a lot of people are going to notice it. So these are our darkest shades. Somewhere between the two I work in a slightly lighter but still dark shade for me. So I'm using NW40 for this. I would probably even go get an NW40 or 45 maybe. Because this isn't quite enough, but I don't want to shade this entire section in, I'm going to put a stripe of this, we'll just say moderately dark foundation there. And that's really the only place I'm going to put that. I might do do like a little bit here just to help blend it. So that is, I wouldn't quite say medium, I'd say medium dark for me. So I'm leaving these. Oh, you know what, I messed up. I did this side of my face. Let me just go over it with the frugal side. I got too carried away with that fancy. Let's just compare. So, so if this was the MAC shades, we've got the 45-50 mix, and then we've got the 40 here. In that case, I would take the darkest shade here of your medium e.l.f. palette. If you're doing the frugal one, you can already see this almost matches perfectly with this NW40, so that can be your medium color. So I'm just using the bottom two of this medium e.l.f. palette, but you can see I just went right over that, and it's almost the same. So if you're using your frugal palette, that's what you use. But I will say that that's probably not dark enough. So if you can find an even darker one, or just a shade that's close to this. This is that weird reddish tan color I was talking about. So I'm actually going to go back a little bit. You can see how dark that is in comparison to even the darkest on both. So I'm just going under the cheekbone again, and then this color specifically, I use Matiara, my royalty. Let's just fix that real quick. There you go. So that is the darkest shade that I will use. I still don't use that like completely up here. So this comes in handy for either palette, but if you can't find this at a good price, just go for sort of a reddish hue in your dark foundation. So that's as dark as we're going. We are going to use, I'm going to use this Pro Longwear. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go right into the concealers. This is all the foundation I'm going to use. So we have our dark foundation on. Now I'm going to add the highlights in with concealer. I'm actually going to use the MAC Pro Longwear concealer as well, just because I feel like the colors blend better anyway, and it's the same idea. It's waterproof. So I'm going to do half our fancy. So I'm using, this is a sample. This is NC30, and I like it because it's a little more golden compared to, this is NW35, so this one's actually a little bit darker, but I don't know if you can tell from the video. This one seems to be a little bit, like a little shade too dark and a little bit more ashy to me, and I want more golden, especially for my highlights. I feel like the concealer I can get away with a mix, but the highlights I want bright. So I'm taking a flat concealer brush, kind of larger size, and since I'm doing half, I'm just going to go one stripe up the middle, and I'm going to do kind of like a fan down up into here. I'm going to try to do half of the middle of my nose. It's a little hard. Oh, this is a good trick. I'm just going to take a line right here. Especially from dieting, I start to get a weird fold that I don't love. So I'm just going to pop that right in there. And then a little bit on my chin. A little bit right here. I'm going to go ahead and take this up to my nose, my crease here. So this is going to start to kind of finish out our eye look. So I'm going to go straight down, and it's going to kind of flow into where I put that first streak at my chin, what is that called? I don't know what that's called. There's a name for that too. So I'm going to actually just go right out, and then I'm going to fan outward. So we're making a giant triangle here. Again, this is for my face contour. I think I have like a heart-shaped face. So if you don't have a heart-shaped face, you might need to contour differently, but the idea is the same. You're still going to go straight down and out. You might need to carry this out a little bit more to soften that. So do it based on your face. So this here's fancy side. I'm actually going to take this right up to the line where we did our Band-Aid, our friend the Band-Aid for the eyeliner. I'm not gonna get too close, but pretty close. So with the Frugal palette, I'm gonna go back to the medium. This is a little different because we're still in foundations here, but for the tone, that's really all I have. I've got the light palette also, and it's okay. I would probably only use just this darkest shade of the light palette if I were going to mix colors, but it is not a concealer. We'll see how this kind of works a little bit differently, but you can see the colors are still kind of close. They're not to me as yellow, but they're also not ashy, so I'm okay with that. So we're going to do a little here in our fold, her other half of the nose. So this is pretty creamy. It feels a little oilier. I'm just mixing the two shades again, the darkest of the light palette and then the lightest of the dark palette. So we're going to go straight down, follow that line to the eyeliner, and you're just going to branch out. See, I already feel like I need like a little bit more lightness there. As far as drugstore concealers, well, I guess this isn't drugstore, but this is probably my favorite concealer to use. It's Morphe. It has a little bit of a peach hue to it. It's light, but not too light. So you could add that in. To me, that seems a little more ashy than golden. So you can go over it with a light foundation or a concealer, either one. But whatever you do, I'm going to bring this guy back out, and it's so easy. I just go right under my eye here, and I actually follow my eyeliner, and I can make that really sharp. I also take this and I go right, I follow my eyebrow. So anywhere that you've left gaps, you can start to bring that closer to the lines first, just to bring the color to all the way down to the line, so you don't have gaps in between. I'm going to come back to this dude, but first you can take a blender sponge, beauty blender sponge, whatever. I just like this. I'm just going to pat. So I don't want to rub too much because I feel like that kind of blends the colors out of place where I put them. So I'm just going to pat the lightest areas first, all down my chin. So really specific lines I want, like I want to keep my nose pretty straight. I'll just pat this as well, and I actually kind of move outward a little to blend it. But I feel like this brush does really well for like noses and just lining under the eyes. After those steps though, I really start to, first I pat, I like to pat first, pat. Then I'll start to kind of do this circular movement. I'm going to come back with that other brush in a second to get that blended in. I try to blend outward and upward. I do not want to bring this much closer because then it starts to kind of look a little bit strange. So I'm patting outward, but then I'm also going to circularly blend outward. This is where it's going to look really crazy because I don't have that tan on. Please blend this up into your, I know this was weird, like your ears, under your ears, down your neckline. This is where your tan would start. But those little things like your ears and stuff you don't think of, but it matters. I mean, that makes a big difference in how professional your makeup looks, because those little details. So again, I'm just patting and then circularly working this outward into my ears, under my ears, down my jawline, all that. So I actually spend quite a bit of time layering and blending. So I actually like to bring this down a little bit because, like I said, the light is coming from above, so it's gonna highlight here. I'm not worried about that. So I kind of want to blend it in a little bit closer. This flat, stiff brush, that is perfect to blend this line. I'm just pushing right back into my hairline. I don't really feel like there's a hair color that wouldn't be beneficial. So I'm pushing back first, and then I just circularly blend that in. This area got a little dark. I don't love that. So I would probably just go back in with my concealer, and you can work back and forth. You can kind of, you know, if it got out of a place you didn't want it to be, just go back in with your concealer and fix it. So like that's a little dark for my liking, so I'm just kind of putting some, I'm crossing the lines here. Yeah, so you would just blend there. So that was our darkest shade. Our lightest shade is still, on a day-to-day basis, I would say it's actually my normal color. I didn't go any lighter than that. So now that we have all of that set, typically the rule is to do all of your creams and liquids before powders. So I'm gonna bring my highlighter back in. Where's my highlighter? I'm gonna go with this kind of fatter stick here. I don't use a whole lot of highlighter. This is the Maybelline Illuminating Highlighter Stick. I don't use a whole lot of highlighter because there's already a lot of light coming through, but I am just going to kind of tap just a few dots like on my cheekbones. Not here so much because, like I said, that's already going to be hit by the light, but I like that softness, and especially where I would highlight is like right under nose, because again you're going to get a shadow cast. You could go a little bit under the eyes if you think you're really sunken in there. So that's such a fine shimmer. I don't feel like it does a whole lot of highlighting, but it gives you sort of a glow. Now my favorite, that's not it. That's not it. I'm getting there. There's so many palettes. Alright, cream blush. So I always put this in first, even though I'm going to go over it with powder. I just feel like this helps that color kind of stay. So this is the e.l.f. Cream Blush Palette, and I don't really get much fancier than this, so I'm going to use this on both my cheeks, even my fancy one. So when I smile, I think that it looks best for keeping roundness right under the eye and then going outward. I don't like it too centered because I feel like that kind of makes me look like a clown. So I go to the outer third of my eye here. Then I circularly move this out also. So that blush sort of blends your foundation and your lightest concealer in together. And it kind of warms up a little bit. And I don't go super dark with the cream blush because it's always easier to add more than it is to take off. And now that we're ending our creams here, we are going to set that with a translucent setting powder. This is just Prep and Prime by MAC. You can use whatever you have, whatever you want. I would suggest translucent or something with a yellowish kind of a tint to it. But this is anything mattifying is what we want. But this is just going to set in between. We're not quite done with the powders here. Especially under the eyes. And I'm just patting this all over. Again, I don't want to like rub it in because that's when I feel like things start to get kind of streaky. Like I already got a streaky right here, sort of. And if it happens, just leave it, man. Leave it. So, we are done with foundation and concealer. No more. That's probably the two hardest parts are eyes and that. So, at least if you've got this down, you're pretty good to go. But, we're not finished. Okay, we've done all of our cream and liquid foundation, concealer, highlighter, cream blush, all of that, and then we set it with translucent powder. So now I'm just going to kind of go just lightly over these last few finishing touches. I like to do my blush first. It's always so strong that I kind of like having the powder over it to kind of mute it down a little bit. This is some super cheap blush I found from TJ Maxx, like Ellen Tracy. But I liked the colors in it. I like to use multiple kind of blushes. So I'm actually going to start with this really light shade, this peachy shade. Pickles, what are you doing back there? And I'm actually going to put that on the outer top part a little bit. So you can always, this is cheap enough. I'm doing it on my fancy and my frugal side. So this is bright enough, but we're gonna kind of subdue that a little bit. I'm going for this second brightest shade here to put that on the probably the outer top of the cheekbone. Sometimes for the night show I deepen it a little bit. I'll go for this kind of berry color down here, but really this is such a strong palette. Like I said, this is enough for me personally, but sometimes I'll go underneath my cheekbone like right where we put some bronzer in. I feel like this is pretty heavy. But like I said, it's going to get toned down a little bit. So even if I use that, I always splurge on this NARS Orgasm blush bronzer duo. For one thing, it's easy to travel with, but that has like kind of a golden shimmer to it, and it's just always the perfect color. So I'll kind of add that on top. Bronzer. This isn't real dark. There's some bronzer in there. I'm using a flat angled brush. I'm going to go in the middle of my dark shade and my light shade with my second darkest bronzer. So kind of like under where we did that medium, that mid-tone, mid-dark tone. Maybe the sides of the nose. Things where I don't want really strong contour. But then I'm going to reach for a pretty dark bronzer. This is e.l.f. as well. Contouring bronzing powder. Turks and Caicos. That's what that is. So this is pretty dark. I'm going to take this and I'm going to go outward and upward, just tiny little strokes. And I'm only going from the outer corner of my eye and out. I don't want to come any closer than that because that's when I start to look like I have like saggy cheeks or something. I don't know. It looks kind of weird. And then this I am going to kind of pop in around my temples. Not quite this, I might go like in the middle here on the bottom, around the jawline, because that was where we did our darkest parts. So that's your blush and your bronzer. I'm going to highlight just a little bit more. This Becca highlight, this is rose gold. It's subtle enough. I feel like I can use it. This I just put in either with a more compact angled brush or my finger. I just put just a little baby amount right at the top of my, kind of between my blush and my concealer now. So I'm just using those little colors to kind of fill in the gaps between the two. I might do like, I'll probably do a little bit above my lip. I take my finger and I'll just do like a little streak down my nose, kind of like an exclamation, like a dot on the nose, and then up through the middle, possibly on my chin. But you can see this is very subtle. It's not even really that shimmery, which I like about it. So after all that is done, I'm going to use several different powders. They're the same. You don't have to use all these colors. You could just finish here with your translucent powder that you used before. So again, this is MAC Prep and Prime. It's translucent. That means there's no color to it. I like this kind of cone-shaped brush for blush. That was hard to say. I like it because it gets all in here, but I also will just kind of use this kind of a puffy dude just to pat. Really where I want those creases to avoid folds. So like right where these lines are. I'll fill that in with the translucent powder first, but I'm going to put this is a pink, sort of a pink shade of powder. It's Ben Nye, but there are lots of brands that have this. It looks a little bright to me, but I like to set that like right under my eye. Even though it looks pink, it doesn't show up as pink. And for stage, I would stick with this light of pink. I wouldn't go much lighter or pearly than that. The next shade that I'm going to use, and I'm going to use my angled brush so I can get it more deep, or more specifically. This is also a Ben Nye powder, and this is Topaz. These are just samples I'm using here because I really don't use these very often. This is a pretty golden shade. Looks just like turmeric powder. I'm only going to pat this around the darker contours of my face. Wherever we did those dark foundations. And then this middle powder I'm going to put all over, or in the highlight spots. This is the Ben Nye Luxury powder. So again, I'm using a little sample pack here. So I'm going to just pat that right in the middle where we did our highlights with the concealer. Right there. Some here. Definitely using this on the cheekbones. I feel like it really brightens the look without getting too light. So I'm just going and down these little, I'm going to find out the name of these creases. Okay, so I'm actually going to let this sit like this for a minute. I'm not going to lie, I have no idea what baking means when it comes to powder, so follow some really cool makeup artists that have an explanation for that, because I don't have one. I guess that helps, but what, we are going to brush this off and kind of blend it in some, but what I'm going to do in the meantime is I'm going to finish my eyes. We are not finished there. So, especially on stage, because the lights are so bright, it's really important to get your under eye liner correct, or at least pretty prominent. I'm not a huge under eye liner person in general, so sometimes it looks kind of scary to me, but it's important for stage. So I'm just using my retractable, my eyeliner here. I just broke it, so that sucks. You could use your kohl liner here. I'm just going at the lash line, and I am going to come into the inner pupil. Again, the dark black hole, not the color. That's your iris. So, even if I did use liner like this, I usually stop at the outer third, but I'm going to bring this in for the basically 2/3. But I'm not going to connect on the inner corners. What I am going to do is I'm going to take this Huda Beauty, the same palette that we used for up here. I'm going to take the darkest purple, and I'm going to go for the outer third with the darkest shade, and then I'm going to go for that medium purple, and I'm going to pop it right under my lash line, and I am going to drag that all the way in. This just gives you a little definition to your eyes because it's so bright up there. We need that. I am going to take my carbon black, I've lost it already. I'm going to take a black, like a very soft black or plum, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect the bottom lash line with the top a little bit more, so I'm going to go right below our cat eye liner to connect that so that they come together, but the bottom is still slightly lighter than the top. So it's not as black as this liner itself. At this point you could put your bottom mascara on, but this is pretty much done here. But we are not going to leave until we buff out our powder. So I don't know if that was long enough. No one ever told me how long to let it bake. I don't even know. I have no idea how long to let it sit. But don't walk out the door with it, because I always forget. And so you want to take a really fluffy brush and just pat. Just make sure that you're like getting all of the... My brush smells really good. Where'd that come from? That's a nice surprise. Yeah, just make sure you blend that all together. And it's pretty matte. This is a very important step. You're going to finish it with a matte finishing spray. This is NYX, whatever. It's pretty cheap. All of it. You could use a pricier one, but I really don't see... This works perfect. I'm totally fine with this. It keeps it mattified. It keeps you from... Like, you're going to be sweating under those hot lights, and so you will want something mattifying to finish it, but I just feel like that helps it last all day. Even if you have time between prejudging and finals to touch it up, I don't find that I need that many touch-ups. However, if you do need touch-ups, get you some of these blotter sheets. This is e.l.f. Almost every brand makes them. I always reach for these to get my like T-zone area in between prejudging and finals before I put powder on, because a lot of times this will just help me from like layering all over and over again, because each time that I'll layer on top of this I feel like I need to really blend it back out because it starts to get a little bit muddy. So that will help at least just absorb some oil without you adding more on top. And the last thing that we have to do are lips. The last thing that we have are lips. Don't forget those. Actually, usually I'll just put the liner on before I leave my hotel room so I don't look weird, but then I usually save the colors for last, just because I'm still eating rice cake crumbs, you know, whatever. I usually just put my lips on backstage. So I've tried to scoot in just a little bit closer so you can see what I'm doing. It's not that fancy, but some of these things help. So I'm going to go with a darker, this is Milani, it's Bordeaux, that's the shade. My suit's a little bit darker, so I feel like a darker lip of these berry colors look better with that darker suit. For something like this, I would probably go with more of a pink or coral. That's just my personal preference, but I'm going to do the exact same look that I did for my last show with the Chicago Pro because I had so many comments on it. So I'm going with this liner first, the darkest shade, and I'm just going to, I'm going around the edges, slightly under. I don't have really voluptuous lips, so I don't really try to fake them either, but I just try to add a little bit of balance between my upper and lower. I do this little X here just to emphasize that dip. And I kind of leave it. So once I've outlined, this looks so good, I know. I'm going to take my pencil and just sort of draw like a 1/4 inch in. Just sort of a moon shape here. And I'm going to do the same thing on top. So I've got a really cool design on my lips right now. But I'm going to fill in this part with the darker shade. Kind of use the side of the pencil. So I feel like that gives it a little bit more of a pouty look. And then I'm going to go in, this is also a Milani, this is Hot Pink, British. That I'm going to go in, I'm just going to go ahead and fill my entire lip in with it. And I don't care if I blend that line as much. This is a really nice pink berry kind of color. Raspberries. And then I'll take like a really, this is a pretty light pink. This is a Sephora vintage pink. And I'm just going to take it right in the center of my upper and lower. Just like the 1/2 inch. So really I'll just leave my hotel room like this. But if you want to go ahead and put your lips on, that's just fine. So I'm using, all of these are these NYX lip stains, the matte. I am addicted to them. I got like a 64 pack of them at TJ Maxx for like 25 bucks, and it's so worth it. I have every shade. So this, I'll just tell you what shades I'm using. Well, I think I am. Yeah, okay, so this is Preg. This is the darkest. This is actually the darkest. What is this? Seville. I guess this is darkest, so we'll just do this on the outline, but I am going to use this. So I'll use this just like a liner. And it's pretty close to that Bordeaux liner. I go to the outside. I do several coats of this stuff, so now I'm going to go in with the Preg. I'm going to go ahead and just do one line in, or one applicator size in, and then I'm going to finish with the San Paulo. This I feel like is a dark enough color, but it still shows up pretty well. See, it's a real nice pink, pinkish. Yeah, ruby, rose, deep pink. So I'll usually leave that, but if I feel like I need like a little bit more color pop, I'll do something bright in the middle. This is Antwerp. Who came up with these names? Not me. So I'm just going to go right in the middle. And it's kind of hard to tell because you've already got that dark color on. So I'm only doing the middle like 1/2 inch. If you want to go one shade lighter, I've got one. I've got one shade lighter. This is Milan. Yeah, these aren't really showing up, so I wouldn't do that. Or waste your time doing that too much. Once you put that dark color on, it's better to go a little bit darker than too light. And then for some sheen, I really like this MAC. It's Please Me. I feel like it just kind of softens it, the blending a little bit. However, I'm not a huge gloss person, but this Urban Decay, gosh, I can't even see what that is. Lip Junkie. I need glasses. I'm losing my eyesight. This just adds like a little bit of sheen to it. It looks darker in the tube. It doesn't show up that dark. I feel like it gives a nice gloss. So when you're done with all this, where is my setting spray? Get your setting spray back out one more time. Finish it off. And you're done. You are ready for stage. Put your jewelry on, put your number on, make sure you got your suit on, bring your shoes, all that, pack your bags, but your makeup is finished. And hopefully you feel like this looks like you. It takes some practice, so it's taken me 3 or 4 times to do this look before I felt like I was comfortable doing it, because each time I felt like I was missing something. So the first time I didn't put enough eyeliner on, the second time I realized my face was still a little bit too light. Every show is slightly different, every stage has different lighting, so you're gonna have to play with this quite a bit and have backup colors. It's always better to have a bigger array of a palette in case you need it than to be limited. But if you get those contour palettes, that usually covers it as far as the depth goes. The most important things are just to make sure that your eyes, your liner is dark enough, that your face matches your body for the most part. You might not get the contouring down perfectly, and that's okay, because the light is going to contour some of that for you. Just don't go in with a really light face. Make sure that you blend all over, and don't forget your lips. I used to not be a big color person, especially for stage. I've seen some reds work, I've seen some pinks, some corals, roses, even some shades of burgundy, but browns do not work with that tan. So please don't use browns. Maybe an orange might work. But you don't want it to be so distracting, because remember, this is about your physique. So don't go with a real bold color. Like I have, this is one of my favorite ones, but it's a little bit too bright, I think, for my look. I feel like it would just be a little bit too distracting. So that's it for lips. I am going to show you this though, because it's so magical. This e.l.f. lip stain remover, if you can even still find this will take this off so easily, and I'll probably include it in a separate little section because I don't want to mess up my look just yet. But this stuff is magic for when you need to take it off, or if you need to switch colors really fast. So we are done. Unfortunately, we'll have to take off our badass tiara because that's not allowed on stage. But you still walk out there like you fucking own that shit, like the queen that you are today. So I hope that this helped you guys. Thank you for watching it. Again, I just hope that this helps you feel more confident in what you're doing, at least when you go on stage, and that you're not stressed. That is the worst, when you're stressed. And I hope that you feel like you. That's the whole reason I made this, is because I feel like you do your makeup every day. You know your features. You just have to tweak it a little bit to meet the needs for stage. But if anything, I hope this makes you feel really confident. So I will be posting more videos. I will be doing one on my competition hair. I may do a few different looks for this eventually. I'm gonna have several videos out on things that I've learned through competing, talking about suits, jewelry, really any knowledge that I have I want to share with you guys. So subscribe to my channel right now and stay tuned for more.